So maybe you didn't have time to DIY those holiday cards this year. Don't fret, you still have an opportunity to make a really beautiful statement to friends and family, I promise you. And we're gonna use scraps, whatever's laying around, to create some incredible place settings for your holiday table. It's not complicated, and you're not gonna have to run out and buy anything extra, I promise. And guess what? It's not super time consuming either, because even the most fun art projects, if they take forever, they can start to feel like a chore. Let's dive in. So for supplies today, friends, I mentioned scraps. Go grab your most hated paintings, the swatching that went awry, all of those scraps that have interesting watercolor moments in them. Now is the time you're going to use them. You want a good pair of scissors you're comfortable with? I like to use embroidery scissors, but that's just me. You also might want to have a paper trimmer. I use a really affordable Fiskars, just simple kind of rotary trimmer when I'm working in my home studio. I'm going to link all these supplies below, so don't worry. I'll be using a brush pen, some shimmer inks, but that's totally optional. Your favorite watercolor palette for me right now, it's the Art for Joy's Sake palette, and your favorite brushes for me, of course, the Art for Joy's Sake brushes. Here's the wonderful thing. We all have different dishes for the holidays. Maybe you just use your year-round dishes, but this is gonna be a way to elevate those place settings. Now, I have this sweet set. I bought it at Walmart a couple years ago. It was super affordable, but it has this cool vintage vibe. The nice thing is that this is gonna coordinate with pretty much anything I pull out of my scraps. And the same is gonna go for you. Pretty much any of your scraps is going to, in some way, coordinate back to whatever plates you might have. I mean, even if they're florals, it could work. But yeah, just go with the flow. Promise, go with the flow. Okay, so take stock of what you have. I've got this sweet little dish set that I mentioned. I've got some blues, I've got some rusty reds, browns, and creamy, like soft whites. And then I've got my gold flatware, which is so vintage and it has a whole bunch of marks on it, but oh, it means the world to me. And you know what? We do paper napkins in this house, so we are gonna jazz up some paper napkins, and they're gonna look cool, I promise you. Got a little Fiesta ware for my year-round set, and the green, it works. And I'm just kind of taking a look and seeing what I might wanna pull in terms of my scraps. I'm gonna go a little earthy with some pops of like bright colors, which works. Here they are. So you can see like even a bright pink could work with this. I've got a lot of earthiness in a lot of my swatching pages. I think this cross-hatching page could be really cool if cut thin, maybe napkin rings. Yeah, the pastel, yeah, that might not be my first choice. So this is what you do. Just kind of like fuss and discuss, set a timer if you tend to like overthink things, and let's get into it. Oh, I love that top scrap for maybe some place cards. So good. And don't forget, you could take parts of paintings and cut them down and make them into things. And so the cat's out of the bag. We're going to cut scraps down and make things out of them. So you actually don't have to paint anything and then cut it out. It's already there for you because I guarantee like you've got paintings that you don't like and you can cut up. And if you're curious about this whole like cutting up paintings you don't like thing, it's a theme with me and I've got a few videos about it. I'll link them below. Okay, I gotta know, are you like completely bewildered and like what is happening here? Or are you like, I am so into this? Let me know in comments, and while you're at it, if I'm amusing and you are bewildered or you're just so into it and having a blast, go ahead and give this video a boop. That's a like, it really helps out my channel. Time to get this trimmer out. Friends, this trimmer is such a help. It's super affordable and it's a great thing to have on hand if you're having a crafty moment. I'll admit, I'm not a big crafter, but I like to be able to make beautiful somethings out of nothing. And so this trimmer really helps out. Okay, I'm gonna trim the really rough painted edges off of this scrap first. I've already decided I'm gonna make place cards out of this, and I'm just gonna figure out, like, I need 7 for my party at holiday time. We're gonna do a Christmas Eve table, and I'm actually gonna use these. So you'll have to check back in the community tab in a few weeks to see how the whole table turned out. So I'm gonna cut these into 2-inch strips. You can do any size. They could be 3-inch, they could be 1.5, whatever feels good, whatever you have. Like, you can make them smaller if your scrap is smaller, but this is gonna work for the number that I need. Here's a little tip when you're adding like watercolor details to a place setting like this. I tend to go a little oversized because I really want them to show up. I wanna show up and show off with the watercolor moments that I'm adding to my table. And so go a little bit larger than you might traditionally. I mean, a traditional place card, when you think like the last wedding you were at, they're usually like what? Like a business card size or even smaller. we're gonna go a little bigger, even than a business card. All right, I've got those all cut up, and notice each one is unique, but they still coordinate because they came from the same page. I actually love that. Now this page, I am going to use, friends, to kind of test out some markers in a bit. I was originally thinking I might trim it for something else, but it's a little bit of a mess. It's got some like gesso on it, so I'm gonna put that off to the side and use it to test out my brush pen before I go ahead and write the names on the place cards. But first, I'm thinking paper napkin rings. So just like the last scrap, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of square this off. I'm gonna trim off the areas that just kind of trail off the page and don't make a lot of sense. And it's just gonna give me a nice, clean surface to work with and start to trim from. All right, friends, I am cutting out 1/2-inch strips, and that's it. And whatever happens, wherever the cuts lie, they lie. And these are going to become my napkin rings. And you know what? Do they coordinate perfectly with the place cards? No, but your watercolor textures are your common thread. Stick with me. If I'm losing you here, just stick with me. I promise it's gonna make sense. Actually, friends, just to give you a little backstory about me as I'm trimming through these, I have a business called Momental Designs that I've been the head of, the lead of, and I founded nearly 20 years ago. And I started doing editorial for magazines like Destination I Do and The Knot, where I would literally travel to a destination and set up kind of fake weddings, tablescapes, the whole nine. So I do have a little background in composition when it comes to table settings, and it's one of my secret superpowers. So I hope that this oddball of a video here on my channel is welcomed by you. Let me know what you think, and if you're excited to see the results, go ahead into comments. I can't wait to see the comment section. And friends, if you want to see more about my editorial work, I actually have a few videos on this channel about just that. I bet you didn't know. I'm gonna link them below. All right, place cards, napkin rings are cut out, friends. Now it's time to add a little bit of interest to the bottom edge of these place cards. And I'm just gonna do a little banner cut, you know, like the little tails, the little flag at the end. Like, think of like a cartoon airplane that has one of those signs kind of trailing behind it, those banners. Yeah, like the end of that. And this is just, I'm eyeballing this, friends. I'm a big fan of eyeballing. So, you know, you just wanna like cut to the center and then make another cut and meet at the center again. And you've got your little deep V cut. And it's so, I don't know, it just feels very proper and lovely and a little bit subversive in the watercolor texture. I'm a fan. All right, now for the napkin rings, the first thing you want to do, because the watercolor paper is kind of stiff, so I want you to actually kind of massage the strip. Just run it through your fingers a few times and kind of curl it a little bit back and forth, and that'll soften it up. And then we're gonna go ahead and do a crisscross after we roll up the paper napkin. Like seriously, we are elevating the very, very basic paper napkin here. And trust me when I say, it's gonna be pretty darn cool. I can't wait for the reveal of this one, but this is a very simple technique. Put a little bit of that adhesive, or even if you have glue dots, a glue dot is gonna work great right in the middle there, and press down hard and you're done. And repeat times however many people are gonna be sitting at your table. Friends, I'm bringing back that sheet. This is going to be my tester sheet for the markers. And this is the Kiritake bamboo pen. And it's leaving a lot of texture as I write, so I'm gonna roll that one out. I'm bringing in another Kiritake that's kind of my tried and true. I will link this one below. It's one of my favorite pens, and I think this one is gonna work, but I do wanna check it out just to be sure. And here she is, friends, and as expected, I like the flow on this one a lot better and the coverage. Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and write these names. Okay, friends, you're about to see a little faux calligraphy. Okay, so this is literally just my handwriting, friends. Me and calligraphy, we don't get along. I have tried it so many times, but I'm just slowly using my handwriting and writing out Mom and then all the people that are gonna be at my table. And then I'm gonna go back and show you a little trick to kind of push this basic handwriting into the calligraphy realm just a little bit more. Okay, friends, so the trick is, as I finish up my dad's card here, is that every downstroke, you wanna go back over it and make the downstroke a little bit thicker. So I'm gonna do this on my husband's card. There we go, with the A. Now I got my pinky over it. Goodness gracious, Christy Rice, move your finger. But see, on the down strokes, we're going to make the line a little bit thicker. I'm about to start that now. Here we go. So I did it on the A. There's the downstroke on the D, on the A again, on the M a few times. And it's not perfect, friends. Like I said, calligraphy's not my jam. Let's look at it again on Dad's card. And this one's feeling a little bit better. Again, fake calligraphy. But you know what? My family will appreciate my imperfect attempt to write their names beautifully, and so will yours. Friends, just a little tip as you go. You might want to make an extra or two because, like I just did, completely screwed up my own name. There might be some that you want to do over, and you also might want to just practice each name once before you go ahead on the final. But if you think that might stress you out, then just dive in and see what happens. All right, friends, one of my favorite additions to any table, formal or otherwise, is a paper placemat. And I know you're thinking, paper for a formal meal? I added a little bit of shimmer ink. I'm gonna link the sources below. And then I'm going right in with a little bit of green watercolor dry brush. And I'm doing like a crosshatch effect with my 3/4 inch flat wash brush. Just use the biggest brush you have. And you just want to make sure your brush isn't too wet, because number one, we don't want the cardstock to wrinkle because it's not watercolor paper and it's gonna get sassy if we put too much water on it. And number two, we just want that nice feathery kind of airbrushed effect with a little bit more texture. And as I go, I'm adding a little bit of violet, just something I had already mixed up on my palette. I'm thinking back to the plates that I've chosen. They're very neutral. So all of the bright colors that are happening in the place cards and in the napkin rings, I want to have a little bit more of a toned down placemat, just texture upon texture upon texture. And that's it. This is going to be our placemat. It needs to dry now though. All right, the big reveal. It's time to put it all together. Placemat goes down first, of course, and our plate, because you might be wondering, well, that is a really tiny placemat. Our plate is going to sit very much off center to the right of the placemat. So a lot of the placemat is actually going to be revealed on the left, and most of the plate is not going to actually have a mat underneath it. There we go. Adding in that green bowl, adding in the bread plate on the upper right. Oh, and friends, so I don't completely shock you, I do not set a traditional table. I'm going to break all of the flatware, spoon, knife, all the things, all the rules. They're all getting broken. Just get ready. All right, place card. I love layers and I love elevating the paper element. So instead of laying it just flat on the bread plate, I like it on the edge of that dinner plate. And here comes that super basic paper napkin, and look at her now. Look at her now. She is fancy. She's fancy. Love it. Bringing in my grandmother's beautiful gold flatware. Oh, I forget the name of it. It has a name. Dear Light. Dear Light. It's called Dear Light. I wasn't planning on this, but I have a lot of extra of those strips that I'm using for the napkin rings. We're just gonna pop those in. We're just gonna pop those in, and you know what? You might be thinking, the minute people sit down, this is all gonna get messed up, especially those strips. But doing this kind of thing, investing time in building a beautiful table for your guests, it's all about that first moment. It's all about the little photograph they might take, or the compliment they might send your way, or the way that you made them feel because you set this table, this seat for them. When it starts to get all knocked around and messed up, you've already accomplished what you set out to accomplish, so don't worry about that. Now I've got a simple red goblet. This is like a vintage find. I think I paid $1 for it. And I'm gonna bring in a little greenery because, you know, gotta have a little greenery. And last but not least, I pulled a little bit of a bud from my blooming Christmas cactus and just added that in for an additional splash of color. And I don't know, friends, what do you think? Do you think it worked? Let me know in comments. And if you're feeling super inspired right now and you feel like you do maybe have time for those holiday cards still, go ahead and try these out because they are wild. Friends, I wish you so much holiday happy painting.